Hey guys, welcome to Merlin Models. I'm Justin, and this is the final episode of the runner build. As you can see, there's a little bit of a change in scenery. More about these guys later in a couple of weeks. In today's episode, we're actually going to be uploading the Arduino code that we will provide to you on our Discord, and then we'll be wiring up the Arduino so we can get this guy all lit, and we'll be wiring the Arduino to the base. That way you can actually power everything through the base itself. And then we're also going to be building the escape pod. Let's go over all the parts you're going to need for this build. Here's all the parts you're going to need. So first of all, of course, you're going to need your blockade runner. You're going to need your base. You'll need the Arduino that comes with the kit, your USB wire that comes with the Arduino, the escape pod top, the escape pod hatch, the escape pod itself, and then the small baggie that is in the escape pod. And in here you should have 4 large engines, 2 small round engines, 3 smaller side engines, and then 4 of the little triangle pieces. You're also going to need the escape pod holder, which we provide you a STL in the Google Drive link. And then you're also going to need the power supply. So can't forget that. We need that in order to power everything. So let's go over what all we're going to need for tools and accessories for this. First of all, you're going to need some solder. You're going to need your soldering iron cleaner. You're going to need some flux. Your soldering iron, I'm going to leave it over here for now. I got me a helping hands. This will make it so much easier for whenever we're trying to solder the wires onto the Arduino. You're going to need a heat gun. You're going to need some extra wire. I'm going with the same wire I used to wire up the cockpit. You're going to need some heat shrink, your wire strippers, CA glue as well as your accelerant, some wire clippers, and then I'm going to use a marker, you'll see why here shortly, and also a spare 12-volt LED. This will be important here in a little bit, and I'll show you why. Okay, now that we have all of our stuff, let's get on the computer, and I'll show you what all you're going to need for the Arduino. All right, guys, as you can see here, we went to arduino.cc en software, and it's going to take you to this page right here, and you want to download the Arduino IDE 2.2.1. It's just a nice simple program that allows you to talk to the Arduino and upload your code to it. So choose whichever one you're working on. I am working on a Mac currently, so I chose, and it's an M1 chip, so I chose the Apple Silicon. And of course, if you're on a Windows PC, which I recommend, it's a lot easier on Windows, go ahead and download the Windows software. Once you have it downloaded, you're going to have a folder that you're going to get from our Google Drive, which is right here. And it will be the Tantive LED code version 3. So what we're going to do is open that up in the program, and it'll look just like this. So you're going to have the pins we're going to be using today is pin 9 for the engines and pin 10 for the cockpit. So the engines are going to have a nice little sputtering kind of start on. The cockpit will turn on whenever you hit the power button. So let's go ahead and connect our Arduino, and I'll show you what all you need to do. All right, guys, now that we have it plugged in, let's go to our tools. You'll want to see your port. And then on your port, if you're on Windows, it'll say COM port. So you want to choose one of these, will say COM port. Since it's on a Mac that I'm using, we're going to have USB serial number. So once you have that, then this will end up being blank. You want to choose your Nano, which it already chose Nano for me because that's what we're using as our Arduino Nano. And basically all you have to do, it's very simple. You just hit upload. It's going to compile a sketch, and now it's going to upload it to the Arduino. All right, now that we have our code installed on our Arduino, let's go ahead and move over here, and we will start adding some wires to this. So we need to add a power, which is going to be the main 12-volt power going in. We're going to need to add our ground, and then we're going to need to add the digital pins that go to the LEDs. So pin 9 will be for the engines, pin 10 will be for the cockpit. Let's go ahead and move over here, and we'll get these wired up. Let's go ahead and wire this guy up. So we have digital pin 9 and 10 right here. We're going to use the ground on the same side as those digital pins. And then over here on this side, the very first pin is going to say VIN, V-I-N. Next to it will say ground. Do not use that ground, because if you do, it'll fry the board. So we're going to use the ground over here to properly wire up the 12-volt connection. What we're going to need for this, I'm going to grab my wire. I'm going to use a red, my yellow, since that is the same color as the wire that's coming from the cockpit, and my black for my grounds. Honestly, you don't really need much. We're basically just kind of creating pigtails to come off of this, so it'll be a little bit easier to wire the wires coming out of the blockade runner. So we're going to need 3 black wires about the same length. Just be a little bit easier. So I'm just going to kind of measure these. Hopefully make them about the same length. All right. So there's our black wire. So we've got our 3. Then I'm going to need 1 for the yellow. This will be for the cockpit for me, just so I know which one's which. And then we're going to need 2 red ones. One will go to the engines, and the other one will be for the power coming out of the base. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to strip these real quick. So what you want to do for this is you want to strip all ends. It'll make it easier for you. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. All right, so I'm going to grab my handy dandy helping hands. We're going to basically attach, don't really need this guy. We're going to attach the Arduino. I'm going to attach it from this end. Be easy to hold. So let's go ahead and we're going to solder on the main power, which goes into this very first pin, which is VIN. So we'll do that one first. The best way to do this, to get this to work, is you're going to want to use your flux, because the flux is going to make the application of the solder on the wires and the pin way, way easier. And I'm also going to get my cleaner ready, so because you're going to be wanting to clean that off quite often. So first of all, we're going to want to add solder onto both the pin first. So I want to add solder individually to the pin and to the wire. So I'm going to go ahead and get some flux. So use the flux, kind of put it on there. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. All right, so if you kind of cover your wire essentially with flux, it'll help. I'm also going to add a little flux to the pin. Now we're going to add our solder. So it's a little hard to do on camera. So grab some solder. I'm going to add it to our wire real quick. Basically, you just kind of want to just paint it on. And the flux is going to help get that solder down into all of the wire, in between the wire and everything. And then we have a little bit of solder left, so I'm going to add a little bit of solder onto the pin, just like that. All right, so now that they're both coated, it's really, really easy. Just kind of bring your wire up, add your solder. There you go. This pin's done. Remember, that is the first pin on the side opposite from the pin we're going to use for the LED engine LEDs. Now that we have that one, let's go ahead and add our shrink wrap. So the shrink wrap is going to kind of help protect everything. So I'm just going to take just a little bit, not much, maybe about 20 mils or an inch. And then we're just going to slide that on up. All right, heat gun. All right, and this side is done. So let's go ahead and flip it over. All right, now that we have it flipped over, let's look at this side. So you can see right here, we have pins 10 and 9. And then we're going to use the ground. So those are the 3 pins we're going to be using on this side. So let's go ahead and let's do the grounds first. All right, so take all of your black wires and we're going to basically bundle them together. All right, as you can see, they are all 3 bundled together. And we're going to add some solder to them. So first of all, grab your flux. I'm going to rub some flux on it. Just nice, just get a nice even coat. Grab some solder. Gently rub that on. So kind of just a nice coating. The flux is going to get all up in there, making sure that everything is coated with solder. All right, now that this guy is done, we can go ahead and get some more flux. I'm going to add it to our ground over here, which is this guy, which is the 4th pin in. Now that we get our flux added, clean off your tip. We're going to add some solder to the pin itself as well. There we go. Doesn't require much, just a little bit. And then basically, we're going to do the same thing we did to the other side. So you want to take your solder and then solder on your 3 wires onto the ground pin. So that one is now done as well. It doesn't take much. You know, see, it's nice, and you want to definitely check your connection to make by doing a quick little tug. If it's on there good, it's not going to move. So let's go ahead and grab our heat shrink. All right, we're just going to give that a nice cover. And then let's use our heat gun. That one's all set. So all we have to do now is do pins 9 and 10, and that's it. This will be done. All right, so we're going to do the red for 9 because that's the same color as the engine's red. So go ahead and add your flux. Add our flux to pin 9, which pin 9 is 4 from the end. So right here. And honestly, since we're here, let's go ahead and add flux to number 10 as well, so which is 3 from the end. So now that we have all of our flux added, let's go ahead, clean our tip, grab our solder, start with the wire first, kind of just coat it. A nice good even coating. And then let's also go ahead and cut up number 9 and 10. Don't cross streams. Just put a nice little bit of solder on those guys. Let's do number 9 first. Just touch it. All right, there's number 9. Add our flux to 10's wire. Add the solder. And attach it. Just like that. And that's it for wiring. Now all we have to do is just add our heat shrink, and that'll be it for both of these. Add our heat shrink to number 9. Add our heat shrink to number 10. Boom. Alrighty. And use your heat gun. Alright, and then we have it. The Arduino is fully done. That's all we need. So we have all of our pigtails. So you just have the main power, you have our grounds, our engines, and our cockpit. So now that this is done, I'm going to clear everything off and we'll bring over the blockade runner. All right, guys, now that we have our blockade runner here, remember we have our basically 4 wires coming out of the runner itself. So we have our positive and negative for the engines and our positive and negative for the cockpit. It's going to be very simple. Like, it's basically, if you use the same colors as I did, it's just color to color. So let's go ahead and strip these first. So don't really need a whole bunch because remember we are soldering. All right, and that should be all those. So I'm going to go ahead and add my heat shrink to these wires, just so, since I kind of have the most room. So you definitely want to put your heat shrink on now before you twist them up and get them all soldered up. Now that the heat shrink is on, let's go ahead and what we want to do, so we're going to leave the main power wire coming off and one of the negatives. We're going to leave these kind of off to the side, make sure these are also twisted. And then now what we're going to do is basically match the colors with these colors. Now that those are all put together, let's go ahead and solder these guys. Go ahead and get some flux. Add it to all of our wires. And I'm also going to add it to the positive and negative that's going to go into our base. You'll see why here in a second. Make it a little bit easier for the base to connect to it. Now that we have all of our flux on our pieces, let's go ahead and solder these guys up. So I'm going to start with adding solder to the positive and negative, which is going to go into the base. So just make it a little bit easier for the connector that is in the base to actually connect these guys. So there you go. As you can see, I soldered both of these, so they're nice and I guess thicker is the word. And let's go ahead and add it to all of these. And as soon as I get done adding the solder to these guys, then I'll see you guys here in a sec. They're all soldered up. Let's go ahead and add our shrink wrap to them. So slide that shrink wrap up like this. I usually like to fold towards in the direction the shrink wrap is sliding to. All right, and there we go. There's all the pieces done. So let's go ahead and hit this with your heat gun. Alrighty. And guys, your Tantive is now connected to your Arduino. So that's it. All right, so to do the base. So let me move this. We don't need our iron anymore, so I'm gonna move this out of the way. All right, so let's grab our base. Move this guy over here. We're gonna flip it upside down so you can see the wires. All right, so as you can see, you're gonna have this little connector right here. Best thing to do with this is you're gonna grab your little 12-volt LED. They unfortunately use clear wiring on this, so it's hard to tell which one's positive and negative, and you wanna make sure you get them right. So I'm using a 12-volt LED to figure out which one's which. What you wanna do, so do this. Then you wanna grab your power supply, open this guy up, and it's a DC plug. But as you can see, it doesn't have any prongs because they are actually included in here. So you have different countries' power plugs. So no matter what country you're in, you'll be able to plug it in. I'm going to use the US standard one. And all it does is just you take your plug and just snaps right on. So I'm going to go ahead. You're going to plug it into this port right here. And we'll plug this guy in so we can see which ones are positive and which ones are negative. All right, now that I got that guy plugged in, let's go ahead and see which one's which. So if it was not in the correct size, this would not light up. So since it lights up, I know that the black wire right here, this is my negative. So I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to mark this wire because I'm going to know this one's black, or that's my negative. All right, we can go ahead and turn that off. Unconnect these. So let's grab our negative, goes into the negative side. Now our positive goes into the positive side, just like that. And we have now successfully connected our Arduino to our base. So when you turn the power on, you have a little light comes on, your base is lit up, everything's working. Let's check it out. Let's check out our cockpit. Yep, cockpit's glowing. What about our engines? They are working nicely. And they got our animated flame for the engines going. Let's go ahead and kind of like move this off to the side. You want to take your wires, kind of poke them right through this middle section. I'm just gonna kind of put my Arduino, let's see, probably over here off to the side for now. I'm probably gonna tape him up eventually over here. So, but let's see what this looks like with the base. All right, guys, let's see what it looks like with the base. Oh yeah, look at that. So nice. We got our cockpit on. And our engine's on. All right. All right, and here it is, guys. Look at this thing. It's gorgeous. It's all lit up. It looks fantastic. So at this point, it's pretty much done. All it needs is some paint. So you have your light going on for the cockpit, and you have your engine animations going on here, and it gets nice uplit by our nice corridor base that we made for this. Oh, I got something for you guys. We heard that you guys were wanting to exchange or replace the piping on the engines. So what I ended up doing is I included an STL in the Google Drive folder with everything else where you can get the skate pod base as well as the Arduino code. I gave you guys the STLs for individual pipes. So you can now, if you want to go through and replace all your piping, you can now do that folder. So let's now move over to the skate pod and get this done. All right, guys, for this, you're basically going to need your escape pod pieces and some glue. Very, very simple. Let's start with our cone. So let's open up our baggie. Okay. All those little pieces. It looks like we actually end up getting 2 extra little cone pieces, or not small engine nozzles. So let's put these off to the side for later. And we're going to grab, first of all, let's go grab our 2 small round engines. So these are going to be basically glued on here and here. So really, it doesn't take much, literally a drop of glue on each side. And just put it in. Use your fix. And the cone piece is ready to go. So what you can do next, this is up to you guys. So you can either have it with the hatch closed, or if you want, you can have it with the hatch open. I'm actually going to keep mine closed. So I'm just going to apply some glue right here at where the base is. So it doesn't take much, a couple of drops. And then I'm just going to attach my hatch. So basically the detail right here on the side is the detail that'll go onto this piece. These line up essentially. So just like this. All right, make sure it's all even. And then hit it with your accelerant. So the cone's basically done. All right, now that that's done, let's go ahead and grab our main body. And we're gonna, basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna attach this onto here. So the best way to line this guy up is you want to look for these guys. So the detail here, those are basically gonna be, so you wanna find your little squares on the side and you wanna find our little miniguns right here on this piece. And basically what you want to do is take this to where they're basically like this. We're kind of lined up like that, and then you're going to rotate it counterclockwise to where this engine lines up with that piece right there. So you basically kind of want a nice even line. So, and that's how you're going to glue it. So I know it seems interesting or weird, but because it's not even, but those are going to be aligned. So I'm going to take my glue, add a couple of drops. Basically, I'm just going to drop on either, just like a little 4 drops. It doesn't take much. All right, and then I'm going to glue it on, just like that. Add our accelerant, and it is all set. So top is now on. All right, so now let's move on to the bottom. So this part is going to be a little trickier. So you have 4 main engines. They're all identical. Then you have these little small side engines. The small side engines basically just slide on into here, just like this. See, just like that. Very simple. But we'll do those here in a sec, because since those are easy, we'll do those. I guess last. Extra little triangles too. We only need 4. Let's go ahead and clean these 4 just to make sure they're all clean. Okay, that one's clean. All right, now that we have our 4, you want to find the side that has the little flat panel on it. So that's basically going to be, you can kind of see the orientation of this. So you have like a nice little point facing in this direction. That is essentially going to go down into here and get glued in like this. Just take your nips to get this to fit properly. And we're going to kind of See where there's two little small holes. We're basically going to kind of like line them up with the nips, cut it like that. So let's do that to all three of these. Basically what you're going to do is the side that you cut is going to go into the triangles. So these like little V triangles. I'm going to take that side, kind of put it right down into the triangle, just like that. I'm going to add, I'll show you real quick. Add some glue. It's really just all it needs is like a drop. You're going to take your triangle. All right, so it'll be a little hard to see. And that's how it is. That's all you do. So just be patient, get it all nice and lined up so it's nice and perpendicular to the bottom, and you're all set. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do this for the rest of these, and I'll see you guys in a second. All right, now that they're all on there, as you can see, let's go ahead and move on to the engines. So basically, if you look at the engines, there is a little smaller piece that's kind of jutting out from the main center piece. That's going to go towards the inside. So as you can see, just like this, it's going to fit down in there just like that. And what you may have to do sometimes, since the gates on these are a little bit longer, I'm actually going to trim these down to be just like little nubs. All right, so basically you want to have little nubs like that. You can also check your depth on these, just kind of do some test fitting, so you know exactly how much you need to cut off. So some of the holes are a little bit, during the casting process, sometimes the holes don't go deep enough. So you can use a little pin vise to make those a little bit deeper, or I'm just going to knock the nubs down. So just like this. And then there we go. And that engine's done. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to the others, and I'll see you in a second. All right, there we go. Now we got our main engines on here. So let's go ahead and add the sides, and we're basically done. I'm going to put these extra guys over here just in case the little fins pop off. You never know. They are a little delicate, so just in case you have extras. So these guys are basically, these little small engines basically just kind of fit in here and kind of slide in just like that. So I'm just going to add a little drop of glue and slide it in. Ta-da, just like that. So let's move on to the next one. Let's add another drop of glue. Just like that. Hit it with some accelerant, and there we go. Last one. Drop it in there. All right, and our escape pod is now complete. Look at that, guys. Doesn't that look amazing? All right, so now all you have to do is grab your base that we provide for you, and the STL base. If you guys can read that, congrats. But if you don't want to look it up and figure out what that actually says, it just says hope. You'll notice on here, on the base, there's a little, I guess you would call it a tooth. The tooth is basically going to kind of fit up in between these pieces right here. So I'm going to put mine just like this. You'll kind of feel it grab like that. And there you go. Our escape pod is done. That's it. All it needs now is some paint, and it's good to go. All right, guys, this is it. They're both done. So thank you guys for watching and coming with me on this journey as we build the runner. Please check us out at merlinmodels.com for all our other kits that are currently available. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.